Recording
Yep,
in progress.
that's the one. Right, start letting people in.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, hey. Hello, everyone.
Morning, morning.
Good morning. Good morrow.
Good morning. Or should I say grand rising?
Grand rising, yes.
Good morning.
Morning,
Cool.
all.
Morning.
Good to see people coming in. Still got folks joining us.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning. Who's here?
Morning.
Stevie. Stevie's here. Paul's here.
Hmm.
Hey, guys. Good to see you.
Still letting
How we doing?
people in, Danny. So we'll.
Yeah. We'll let some people.
Yeah.
There'll probably be some stragglers as well, won't there?
Yeah.
I was really surprised that the amount of people that kind of took us up on this. Actually, to say this is the first one that we've done.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. So
Well,
on LinkedIn, I don't know if you looked, Guy, but on LinkedIn there was something ridiculous like just under 200 people. This
Yeah.
was going to come, but I don't know if anyone else has done LinkedIn events, but you know what you'll do and invites people, and loads of people say that they're going to come, but they won't. So so they're totally unreliable.
To be fair, I think people mean to, and then life gets in the way, and it's all a question of how, on the scale of relevance and importance, how high up is it really? So I know I've been guilty of signing up to things, meaning to go, and then life gets in the way, or
Yeah.
one of those annoying clients wants to get your attention, and before you know it, you've got to do some work.
Yeah. I've had a few people asking for the recording already. And I was
Yep.
just like, why do we even bother? Either come or don't come.
Yeah, we are recording it, but I'm not letting people's note takers into the room just for confidentiality and copyright reasons, essentially. But certainly there will be a recording available, and the highlights will be covered as well. So more than happy for people to make sure they don't miss anything important, really. But we want to kind of manage the filtration, as it were, if I can put it that way. We've got some familiar faces coming in as well. It's lovely to see. Hi, Rohit. Pippa's here.
This here. Katie's here.
Still
Oh,
got more
Katie,
people coming in.
good to see you.
Wonderful.
Finally.
Hello.
Hello. Who else is here? The big dog, Brian's here.
Dileep's here. Hi, Dileep. Hi, Ed Stubbs. Good to see you, Ed. Andy Brady.
Ed.
Friends of mine. Liz. Brian's here. Yeah, it's looking good. And Martin.
Great.
Hello, Martin. Good to see Martin Truman.
How you doing?
It's been a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm well, thank you. Nice to
Good
see
to
you.
connect.
Absolutely.
Get
Ed,
the same
who's little
bearded haircut look as well.
Similar styles, Martin. It's the migration from the head to the chin, but it's all good.
Ed's here with the newest team member as well, by the looks of it. Oh, great.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
There you go. First ever webinar.
Congratulations, Ed.
Yes. Congratulations.
Number 2.
Thanks, Guy.
All okay?
All good.
That's the main thing.
That's important. Yeah, we'll try and keep the noise down. No loud noises.
It's all good.
Cool. Well, I think we've got a good crowd in already. We'll obviously keep letting people in, Danny, but it's 4 minutes past 10. We also said we would try and keep this fairly snappy, mindful of everyone's busy days. So we're gonna rattle through this. We've got some pre-prepared slides which will kind of keep us on track. And Danny's going to be doing a demo of some aspects of what we provide as well. So we'll keep it lively, but I'm also mindful that today is the 11th of the 11th, and there will be those of us that want to give our respects at 11 o'clock. So we will be done before then, for those that for whom that is important, which includes myself. So that's just a little heads up really on the timeline for today. Also really keen that people put questions in the chat box as we go through, and both myself and Danny will keep an eye on the chat. Pippa's here with us as well. So Pippa, if you message me anything that needs our attention as well that I might miss or that Danny might miss, that'll be wonderful. And as I said, we'll invite you to make comments really. So I'm going to get ready to load up the slides, but I think if we kick off with, if you wouldn't mind, folks, just put in the chat box who is actively right now very keen on finding something to acquire. So just type in the word acquire, and then we'll get a sense of who's active. And then we're kind of, yeah, we've got those coming in. Great.
This is where we make sure nobody's a bot, right?
That's it, yeah. Got,
Put your zeros and ones.
Rohit, Carl, yeah, excellent. Lots of motivated buyers, which is wonderful. Okay, we're all on the right. Well, we're in the right room for a start off, so that's a good start. So okay, brilliant. Let's get going with the slides.
Simon Harding looked really keen to acquire. It's all in caps.
Let me know when you can see the screen, Danny.
Yeah, great, mate.
Okay, here we go. Let's get cracking. Okay, so building your off-market pipeline. I think that's probably the key thing that we wanted to emphasize. And just to explain the relationship. So I run Fidelis Advisory, which is a boutique corporate finance team. We help primarily on the buy side, but we do help a few people on the sell side as well from time to time. And Danny and I met through, I think, essentially social media originally. And another group that we were in, and I like what Danny was talking about. We got chatting, and the timing seemed to be immaculate for us to team up. Really, I've been helping clients to buy businesses now for 11 years, and before that, was doing it for myself as well. So, 20 plus of M&A experience under my belt, primarily as an operator. More latterly with Fidelis Advisory, just because lots of people said, "Can you help me to do a deal?" So I think we've all experienced the joys of the broker network, for good or for ill. There are one or two decent brokers out there, but I personally think that the broker model is a bit of a challenge for lots of us for lots of reasons. So this is not a broker bashing process. I've personally bought companies through brokers successfully, so I'm not here to denigrate brokers. And a good friend of mine, Ken Gorman, runs an exceptionally good firm. So they're out there and they form an important part of the ecosystem. I've always said one of the most important parts of the broker network is that at least the seller has put their hands up to say, "I want to sell." It's the bits in between and the friction that the broker network tends to create, which sometimes is a problem for us. So what Danny built previously really caught my eye, and with the volume of business that we were doing and people on the buy side, we felt now was a great time to team up. So Danny is Mitten Ridge and I'm Fidelis Advisory, and together we've created Acquisition Engine. So let me just click on this so that this works. There we go.
Just before you get into that, guy. Yeah, so again, this isn't anything to do with brokers. It's not bashing brokers. I would still advise people to go through brokers. This is literally just another string to your bow. I think it's really important to have that extra string, but also to own your own pipeline. I think that's, if I've learned anything, that's probably the most important thing, because a lot of these conversations, especially off-market conversations, can be, let's call them seeds of conversations that need to be developed and nurtured over a little bit of time. Granted, there are some people that come out the woodworks and say, "Yeah, I want to exit today." But a good chunk of conversations that you do generate through off-market will be conversations today, opportunities tomorrow. Let's call them that. So there's an element of nurturing these opportunities over time. But like I say, it's just all about owning your own pipeline. Where the slides gone, Guy?
We just have a slight technical error, so keep talking, Danny. You're doing a great job. But I should be right back with you.
Yeah, all right. I suppose a little bit about me then, just to kind of give everyone a little bit of a backstory. So I come from a marketing agency background. I actually created a prospecting agency, focusing on LinkedIn, which is kind of where the roots of acquisition engines came from. So I sold up my business to start working as a commercial director for an M&A advisory. So I was a commercial director for the whole group there, which is really good. You know, oversaw some really great deals, large and small. But I always got this feeling that I was kind of always a bridesmaid, never the bride, is the saying that I always kind of talk about. And I wanted to do my own deals. So I created Mitten Ridge, which of course I'm always on the lookout for my own opportunities, but I also team up with other M&A professionals as well, other M&A entrepreneurs that are looking to, you know, find deals, and we team up and we do deals together. I mean, my specialism, I suppose, is predominantly marketing. But a lot of my partners will be like in renewables or engineering, which I have no expertise in, but I sure as hell know how to find them. So yeah, so it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, back on track now. Got the right slides. So what we wanted to do was really explain how the system works. So it's not, I think the key thing is to emphasize it's not a piece of software, it's a process. So software is involved in it, which Danny will run through, but more importantly, to talk about sort of we've still got people coming in as well. Gosh, all right, let's get them in. So, okay. So all of us as buyers face the standard challenges. I've been there chasing leads, speaking to tire kickers. There are so many different elements to the conversational piece, the acquisition piece. And frankly, I've also dealt with, there are a spectrum of brokers that will take clients on whether they're actually meaning to sell or not. And we've all heard the horror stories of, I've got 10 eager buyers, just pay me this fee, and you know they'll come knocking at your door, and afterwards you find that that's not the case, and it was all about just generating some cash, really. So and that whole process can be quite sort of soul destroying, really, eventually, once you just realize it's a bit of a treadmill. So as we've talked about, I've got 25 plus years experience, worked on hundreds of deals now. And I know there are other people in the room with similar experience, and Danny's talked about his experience, really. So as I said in the intro, I don't really feel that the broker market particularly serves the industry particularly well, if I'm honest. I'm not a fan, but for the reasons that I've touched on, really. But other than to say that they're on the market. So when Danny and I were talking, I've always wanted to try and find a way to open up direct communications with sellers, because I think buying a business is much closer to a relationship building exercise than it is about business. If you're buying somebody else's business, you're buying their life's work, their culture, their thought process, the business created in their image, largely speaking. And I think for people to focus entirely on the numbers, ask lots of questions about EBITDA, etc., misses the point. I've found over the years that 85% of what we do is emotional, and probably 15% technical, monetary, etc. So when I looked at what Danny was doing and the way that he was framing the conversations and opening up the opportunities to have those direct conversations, for me, it was really exciting to look at. So I just wanted to put that out there. That was kind of my turning point, effectively. And why do I think brokers cause a problem? Well, we all know the reality is that some are better than others, but many of them kind of form a wedge between us and the seller. They're really not very good at allowing rapport to build. Some are better than others, some through complete absence. So certain brokers who just don't even bother to turn up. And in a way, that's great, but then they reappear at the end of the process when the deal has been agreed. And very often I've seen this time and time again start killing the deal because it doesn't suit them. And frankly, let's be honest, we all know that there are brokers out there that inflate valuations so that they can feed their own pipeline, really. And the statistics on successful sales are pretty grim. So if you want to sell your company through the broker network, it's pretty much the Wild West, I would say, in the UK. Perhaps different in the States because of regulation, but certainly in the UK, it's not an easy thing to do. And I did some research recently looking at data and statistics. And these were some of the headlines that came out of that research from across the board, really, from sources like accountancy firms, Accounting Web. Obviously, some people write reports which are to some extent self-serving, but I'm sure these are common features, really. Particularly, I find with a lot of the larger brokerage firms, the people that work on the negotiations have very low levels of financial, legal, or tax expertise. And a true story of one of the biggest brokers, whose name I won't mention to save their blushes, but a new guy had come on board, and we thought, oh, let's try and build a relationship with him and see if we can get some flow. And I just said to him, what did you do before you joined X firm? And he said, oh, I was working at Fat Face. I was like, okay, from selling T-shirts to selling companies, because that's an easy transition, isn't it? So that's an extreme example, but unfortunately, I do think that's a feature of some of the brokers out there. And then I think, talking about emotion, what we do is an emotional process, and you can spend a huge amount of time and end up with the other pattern of behavior I've seen time and time again, and I'm guilty of it. I've done it. I've definitely done this, is get into deal fever, because you have one deal in front of you and you just think, I've got to make this happen. Or you try to make the numbers fit because it's the only deal you've got in front of you. And the antidote to that is pipeline. It has to be the old hopper. You've got to have more stuff going in the top of the hopper to get away from deal fever, buying the wrong company. And I've done that. Or falling into the trap of overpaying, over leveraging. The worst thing that we can do in acquisitions is over leverage. The human bias is in all of us, and the tendency to think, I'll make the numbers work. I'll change compound annual growth rate from 5% to 15 because look, my spreadsheet looks great when I do that. And if we then put those numbers into the real world, that's when we start creating traps for ourselves. And there's a guy called Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, who coined the phrase, the deal of the century comes along every week. But if you're not filling your hopper with those opportunities, you're going to miss that deal of the century, and you're going to stick to the narrow frame that you've got and potentially waste a lot of time as well on what can be a wild goose chase. And I've had deals fall over on the day of completion with money in the client account at the solicitors. In extreme examples, people getting what I call seller's remorse. Just can't go through with the deal. And there's so many different elements that can go wrong in a deal. And I think having that hopper effect is so critical, really. And I like Danny's phrase, direct owner to owner conversations where trust equals transactions. And it's so true. We have to build. Ken, my mate, who's a broker, talks about a dating game. I think when you're in this business, it is about a dating game. You have to build those relationships, and you have to get to know each other for a successful transaction to take place. It's not about the EBITDA and the numbers. It's about culture. It's about rapport. It's about shared values between you and the seller. If you want to buy a business, you've got to find the right business. And to do that, you have to have volume. You can't do this on a piecemeal basis, really. And so Danny built a system to generate what I call real seller conversations. And that just kind of exploded the opportunity, really. So we're talking about moving from pain to a process, and the best businesses operate on sound processes, systems and processes that move the dial on a consistent basis, really. And what Danny's created is this concept of 40 or more new seller conversations a week, multiple acquisitions closed, and that's where the idea of acquisition engine really came from. Danny, do you want to chat about the engine in a bit more detail?
Yeah, so I think you kind of summarized it with the hopper, because realistically that is what it is. It's just filling the hopper, and beginning those conversations and having those seedlings of conversations. And again, you mentioned it's like being in a relationship. It absolutely is, especially for off market, because if a seller is selling the business and they don't have that advice, good or bad, if they're going to go through a broker. If they don't have that advice, it can be difficult for them if you're the buyer that seems to know everything. So you really have to be that trusted source. So this is, yes, this is an element of filling the hopper with leads, but it is definitely about being emotionally intelligent as well. Something to bear in mind. I think a lot of people do this whole, deal via spreadsheet, where they're just putting the numbers into a spreadsheet and it spits out a formula at the bottom. I've known plenty of people that have done that, and almost all of them lose out on the deals because they don't have that emotional intelligence to actually build a relationship. So with what we've built here, again, I'll go through a demo. Unless you want me to go through a demo now, Guy.
Just going to touch on, in a second. I think if we just look at, these are the steps really to help
Yeah,
people,
go
and then dive into the demo. So
I'll go through this. So
we've looked to keep it fairly simple. So I'll let Danny walk you through it.
So in the first instance, what we'll do is we'll actually do a call in the first instance where we'll just go through your criteria, what it is that you're looking for, the do's and don'ts, I suppose, of what it is that is in your particular buy box. Then what we'll do is we'll actually handle that whole process. So we'll build the lists. No matter how specific there is, we'll get the data from wherever we get it from. People ask me that all the time. Where do you get your data from? Anywhere, wherever we can find it. Predominantly LinkedIn and SalesNav is our go-to, but anywhere. Then what we'll do once we've got that list, we'll then create all of your campaigns. So in some circumstances, we can create multiple campaigns. The most amount of campaigns I've ever created was 20 campaigns. All of those 20 campaigns all had their own kind of demographics in them, their own sequences within them. And we can track all the stats and the metrics within each of those individualized campaigns. So we create all of those. Then what we'll do is we'll then just basically launch it. This slide says email. In this circumstance with acquisition engine, we aren't doing email, we're just doing LinkedIn. But usually we'll get this up and running within 2 days. Usually, sometimes it can be a little bit longer. The fastest setup I've ever done was about an hour. But usually we normally say around about 2 days to get all of those lists built, get the campaigns set up and drafted, and then launched. Then what we'll do, as the campaigns are going and the conversations are actually starting, we've got some people on our side that will actually help to manage those conversations. So, for example, if someone replies back and say, yeah, we're potentially interested in having a conversation, regarding selling the business, we'll actually manage that conversation on your behalf. We may even ask some questions. If we think, I don't know if these are going to be the right criteria for you, we might ask some questions to try and get them to elaborate on certain things. Then what we'll do is we'll actually just send them a calendar link to get them booked in for a call, which will just literally just book straight into your calendar. So on your side, all you need to do is attend the call, which is pretty straightforward from your side. Once you've attended that call, give us some feedback on whether that call was good, bad. If you liked it, we can do more of the same or less of what you've just had, so that then over time, instead of being, if anyone's worked with an agency before, I think the saying of a set it and forget it approach is quite common. They'll create the campaigns and then they just leave it alone. Whereas with us, we want that constant feedback. So we want you to tell us what's working well and what's not. And like I say, we create this feedback loop, which creates the campaigns that are constantly evolving all the time as your criteria evolves and develops all the time as well. And if you make an acquisition in healthcare, for example, or engineering or whatever, you might want more of the same. So it might evolve the campaigns all the time. And then once we know what works, we just double down and we just scale it up. So it's a little
One
bit
of the things, just to add into that as well to help people. Our first client who came on board 2 weeks ago, Danny, something like that, 3 weeks ago, Mike. We're getting some really, we're getting some really good results with Mike. And part of the added value, one of the reasons for us teaming up is that I've given Mike what I call handrails, or we've been using vendor questionnaire tools and guidelines on how to make the most of that opportunity call, so the positive inquiry call, and that's helped Mike as well to focus the conversation, the questions, to speed up the rapport building, to get to the nub of the question from those positive inquiries, because this is about relationship building. So those additional tools, and then we also provide a further layer of support where we can give some very simple high-level analysis of the prospect company as well, just to add more weight to that opportunity, because it's the classic phrase, isn't it? First impressions count. And if you've done a little bit of homework on that conversation before you start, that it enhances it enormously. So that's all part of this package which we put together.
Yeah. If you go onto a seller call and you started by saying, "Oh, I don't know anything about you. It just came into my calendar," then that's really not the best way to start a relationship. So yeah, we'll give you a little bit of information about the company ahead of the meeting.
It's also why I'm not a fan of the cold outreach. You know, there are people out there that talk about send out letters, and we all know that the market is getting quite, maybe not saturated, but it's a common occurrence. I get letters from brokers. There are people that have been on a course somewhere that want to try to outreach, but it's cold in the sense that everyone knows it's just a blanket approach. And I think it's far more important that this approach creates more of a, I don't want to use the word intimate, but a more relevant conversation from the get-go. And if we look at the different options that I've just sort of summarized here, you know, doing it yourself, working with a VA, it's slow. You may not have the experience or the knowledge, or your VA might not. So this is quite a sort of niche area, really. Again, with brokers, working through brokers, it's inevitably a very slow process. I've waited days, weeks. You know, you do the work, you find an IM or a teaser that looks great, you send off, and then it's like crickets, you're just waiting for that information. So it's a very slow process. This is a much, much quicker, more active process. And there are there's one or two buy-side advisory firms, but they're expensive. And again, you know, you're going to be doing a lot of the legwork and not necessarily the speed to market or the targeting which this process offers, really.
And you also don't own the opportunities.
Yeah. So just thinking, Danny, when's the best time to do a run through? Do you want to jump onto that now?
Happy to do a run through now.
Yeah. I think I'll stop sharing and you can load up.
Yeah, cool. Right, give me a sec. Let me load up my screen. Share screen.
While Danny's loading up, guys, there's some questions. So Paul's asked the question, do you know the rough success rate of brokers? Are we talking 5% or 20%? I think the overall success rate across the board, Paul, is in the region of, some are as low as 6%, the biggest, and the better ones are probably around 10%. That's SMEs. Now, if some of the brokers that I work with have learned to focus on private equity, and they get a much better hit rate. But obviously you're dealing with a business which has stronger roots, better information, more appealing, high level of EBITDA. So if we're talking about businesses that are below the radar of private equity, success rate through brokers is really grim. I think the average that most people accept is around about 20% tops. So it's not an easy place to be if you're trying to sell your company by any means.
Yeah, definitely. Can you see my screen?
Yep,
cool. Yeah. And as we're going along, guys, please do just put questions in the chat, and we'll either come back to them at the end, or we'll kind of periodically box them off. So before I kind of get into this demo, I suppose what I kind of want to stress is, yeah, this system is the absolute dogs, but the system is a tool. What really you guys are buying into is the tool, but then the service as a whole. So I'll talk you through all of this. If you came on board, you don't necessarily need to be in the system every day. All you guys need to do is attend the calls, but this is the system that we use to get it all done. So, giving you guys a little bit of an overview here. And if anyone's used LinkedIn prospecting tools before, you might find that there's some similarities. But if you think of those like a Vauxhall Corsa, and this is much more of a Ferrari type situation, hopefully you'll understand. So some basic stuff is your kind of like home stats. So we can see, for example, how many connection requests that we sent out, over the particular time period. Now, given any particular week, we will usually send out between 180 to 200 connection requests a week. This is limited by LinkedIn. It's not limited by us. A handful of years ago, you used to be able to do like 500 a week. You know, if anyone remembers those days. Now it's capped to around about 180 to 200 per week. So you can see how many connection requests were sent out. We can also see how many people have accepted our connection request, and then we can also see how many people have responded to any kind of conversations that we've generated. Some of the things that we can also see in here is our campaigns. So we've got two types of campaigns that we can set up. We've got connect campaigns here and these ones, and then you've got messenger campaigns here. Now we don't have any messenger campaigns set up yet because it's not the time to be doing those. But connect campaigns are going to be sending out connection requests and messages to your second and third degree connections, bringing them into your network and then trying to start a conversation. And then your messenger campaigns are for people who are already in your network. So these are good for like follow-ups. They're also good for like Merry Christmas, Happy New Year type messages, setting up calls for January. Messenger campaigns are totally underused. But in this circumstance, most people focus on the connect campaign. So giving you a bit of a run through here. So the criteria that we got from this client was he wanted to focus on London. But he also said if the company was big, he's happy to entertain either USA or the UK. So what we did, anywhere in the UK. So what we did is we created all three of these campaigns, separated them out into these separate sequences. Now we ran them for a little while, and what you'll be able to see is this one switched on, but these two are switched off. And we did that for one very simple reason. If you look at this column here, our acceptance rates. So we've got one that's 3%, we've got one that's 8%, and we've got one that's 26%. So this kind of gives you guys a little bit of an insight into what we're doing and what we're looking at. So we'll create these campaigns, however many that you would like. But then once we launch them, we're actually looking, well, you know, which ones are actually giving us the best bang for our buck. In this circumstance, it was very, very clear this London-based campaign was giving us the best results. So we just thought, well, why don't we just switch those off, get some good results, and then if we want to, if the pipeline's full, we can switch these on, and then we can go after some bigger deals a little bit later on once we've got that pipeline there. So these campaigns will run. If I click open this, and if I go into the steps. So these are very, very simple in terms of our messaging sequences. So we've literally just got a 3-step sequence here. So if anybody wants me to go through these a little bit later on, then more than happy to. But we try not to kind of like do like a really long sequence, simply because my approach to messages is there's only going to be one of 3 outcomes. They're either just not going to accept your connection request in the first place. They're either going to accept your connection request but not reply, but you know they're in your network, so you can nurture them over time, or they are going to reply. And those are literally the only 3 outcomes that you can have. So what we don't want to do, if they do accept your connection request, is we don't want to take them through this long, 6-message sequence where you've got your calendar link in there and you've got your website and big long paragraphs. They're normally very short, very sweet, just trying to get a conversation moving. So this campaign then runs. As it's running, start generating some conversations, which then takes us over to the inbox. So all of these conversations are happening within inbox, but our software synchronizes with the LinkedIn inbox. Now, this is really important for you guys in particular, because we can actually synchronize to your LinkedIn inbox without us actually requiring your LinkedIn passwords. So you don't need to share them. But further down the line, if you're totally happy with the amount of acquisitions that you've made and you want to call it a day, all you need to do is either change your password and then that's it, we can't access, or we just dislink your account from our system and then that's that. So in terms of keeping your account safety, that's super, super important. But this is how we'll access all of your messages. So if I open up a conversation here, open this one up. So we've got a chat that's going on here. Or I can go down to some of the next ones. We see a mixed bag of responses here. If I open this one, this will be a what we call a no thanks. So in this circumstance, it was giving somebody else's email. In this circumstance, it was probably not the right time, which is absolutely fine. But what you'll find here is there's a mix between these green and these red labels. So what I can do is I can filter the inbox for these green labels, which are our positive responders. And we actually have some AI that's working in the background, labeling the intent of these conversations. So if I click on one of these, for example, I can see that we've generated the conversation, and then we've got the reply, and then we've got the email, and then that's one positive response. So our goal here is eventually to try and get these towards a booked call. So what we'll be doing is we'll be managing these conversations on the client's behalf, and then eventually, once the conversation's ready, we would just go calendar link, copy and paste that in, and then send that message, and then away it goes. There's a whole host of things that we can do here as well. Again, just to give you guys an idea, if someone said no thanks, we can copy and paste that message in. If someone says what kind of deals you're looking for, we can have something that's ready to go there as well. Again, this is all part of the onboarding. We'll get all of this information from you guys so that we can have like a call it a response Bible, I suppose, of messages that we can have that are semi pre-prepared, where we can just put them in, copy and paste them into there, and then edit them down as and when required. Something else we might encounter is we might encounter something where someone might say, you know, I'm interested in a conversation, but I'm on holiday right now. Come back to me in however long. So again, that's absolutely fine. We can actually delay when we send this message. So we can create a timer here. So we can schedule when this message gets sent, certain time, certain date. So we can create the message now, but we can actually send it further down the line. Again, as we come into December, people are going to start slowing down. People are going to start saying, you know, I'm off for Christmas, but, you know, let's chat in January. So we can actually create these responses now whilst everyone else is sleeping. And everyone else has slowed down. We can actually do a lot of work now, which will then benefit us into January and beyond. So that's a little bit of an overview of the system. There's a hell of a lot more to it than that, but just at a broad stroke, yeah, that's the system that they're using in the back end.
Cool. Thanks, Danny. I'm going to rattle on to some case studies, but what I encourage people to do is to put in the chat box any questions that you've got while you're thinking about what Danny's shown you in terms of what's on the screen. Drop them into the chat box and we'll circle back to those, because I want to explain the impact of that process, what Danny's explained on real life case studies. So I think it's important to connect the theory of what you see on the screen with the reality of what it's delivering, really. So please do put any questions that you've got in the chat box. Anything about the process, the software, anything you've heard so far, and we'll circle back round to those. So I'll just bring the slides back up. There we go. So first thing to note really is the speed. That's one of the critical factors of acquisition engine. I think is really important. Getting those first prospective seller calls in days, not weeks, and having a more personal one-to-one communication off the back of the messaging, etc. And so Mike, who we mentioned before, not only have we now generated a whole load of positive inquiries for him, but we actually found what Danny found, 14 opportunities that were just languishing in his inbox that weren't even touched properly. So it's remarkable what you find once you get into it.
Yeah, they were from another agency that the client had worked with, and yeah, the opportunity was literally just sitting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so even in the first circumstance, we did a campaign where we went back through some of these old conversations and tried to reignite them.
Yeah. Danny, do you want to just run through some of these examples, because these come from the stuff that you've done?
Yeah. So these are a varied mix of examples of some things that we've done in the past. So we've done things where we've worked with a business buyer, worked in the marketing agency space. He made some really big acquisitions over in the States, and yeah, he's got plenty in the pipeline as well. We've also worked with people like Kieran, for example. This was a good one. So he bought a business for 400k, but it had 600k worth of assets. So that was a cool one straight off the bat. Another thing about Kieran as well is he actually bought a business 2 years after connecting with that person. So again, just giving you an idea of sometimes the timelines can actually be quite long. But if you are active on LinkedIn and you have that element of posting regularly and touching base with people regularly as well, then you can develop that relationship over, in that circumstance, years. So yeah, so that was the 1.8 mil engineering company that he ended up buying. We've had clients that have bought 23 businesses in 18 months. That was a cool one. Fair play to them for that one. So we obviously just set up the conversations, but they ended up doing a lot of the legwork in that case. But they absolutely smashed it. And then Ben, another one of our clients at Mitten Ridge, he's at any one time he's got around about 8 deals on the go, which have all reached heads of terms, and we're all kind of going through that due diligence process. So he should get some deals closed over the line. One of which for Ben is a £5 million renewables business. So just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we can do there.
I think that's really important as well, to go back to the point we made earlier around volume of opportunity. I'm sure Ben will end up with the best opportunities out of that mix, really, rather than relying on one or two that you hope you get over the line. I'm just going to run through very quickly, time's getting tight. These are some of the clients I've worked on. So Brendan, who lives in Norway, acquired 2 UK companies and actually did the 2 deals in about 3 months of each other, and went from 0 to 3 million revenue. So it's possible to do that when you're not even in the country. Trig and his partners, we helped them acquire a 15 million euro business, entirely vendor financed, no external debt whatsoever, and cross-border. So that was an interesting project. Claire went from a traditional bank funded deal to a vendor finance deal because of concentration issues on the client base of that business, and it's been very successful and allowed her to move to Spain. And Steve, another client of mine, made a £4 million trade acquisition, again entirely vendor finance. So we've developed a real skill set in vendor finance deals as well, to not only deal with the broker challenges, but deal with the funding market as well. So that's a key part of what we're offering here as a team. So what do you get when you join? You get the custom acquisition engine build that Danny described. Those effective outreach campaigns. Our team supporting your inbox management, which is really important as well. Not doing it all for you, but supporting you. Constant refinement of the process, and we provide a degree of coaching support to help you make the most of the opportunities that come your way. And as we build, so we'll build a community as well. So people will learn from each other and support each other, which is always a great way to go. So we think that the value of that, by any stretch, for most sell-side agency type companies out there in the market, is around about £4,000 a month. But today, and only for today, we are making an offer of £1,597, and that's a lifetime discount. So if you buy today, that's locked in for as long as you stay with us. But we are only doing 5 places at that price. In fact, only 5 sales today. What we plan to do is to run this webinar probably once a month, so give fresh opportunities for people to come back in. We recognize that today might not be the perfect timing for you, but it may be something that you still want to do, but you're not quite ready, and that's just life. But for those that are keen and eager, then we hope the solution that we've given you is pretty compelling. The deal, if you like, Danny's output equals input guarantee. I love that phrase. It's a 30-day test. There's no contract. We won't hold you to it. You can cancel if you don't love the flow. Then we'll let you go. But only founding clients will get this deal. And after that, the normal process will be a 3-month minimum period, which is not unreasonable, given the volume of work that we do to put in. So we're only onboarding 5 clients on this offer, but you get that price per month locked in for as long as you stay with us. So we think that's a pretty compelling offer. And as I said, once those spaces have gone, the price will go back up to £1,998. We assume pretty much everyone's VAT registered in some form or other, so you'll be able to recover the VAT, and we're confident that that will demonstrate value, really. So just wanted to explain the price pointing, and I couldn't resist.
I'm also, guys, sorry, just quitting in. I'm also just going to put the if anyone does want to take us up on that, I'm just going to put a link in the chat now. If anyone does want to get going and they want to get going quickly, then feel free to follow that link. And you can get signed up. Like I said, this is only for the first 5 people. This is like our founding launch offer. So once we've got those 5, that's it. You know, this offer will never be seen again. And that's not a thing to try to create scarcity. I mean, I suppose it is, but this is literally just because we want people in, we want these case studies, and we want more case studies for Acquisition Engine, and we want to work with people very, very quickly. So yeah, after those 5, you'll never see that offer again.
So just circle back around to the questions, Danny. We've got Pash has asked, is the system based on using the LinkedIn Sales Navigator?
So yes and no. So you don't need Sales Navigator to work with our system. If you don't have Sales Navigator, that's absolutely fine. You can actually use our Sales Navigator account. We can do the search in our Sales Navigator and then pull it from our Sales Navigator into your profile. So you kind of get Sales Navigator by default in a way. If you've already got Sales Navigator, that's absolutely fine. If you use it for other things, that's fine too. But you don't necessarily need it to work with us.
Cool. And is this primarily a tool for sellers? No, it's primarily a tool for buyers. But if you are in the field of selling, then we can help with that as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want to use it for that, then it could absolutely be used for that too.
And we've just launched a program called Legacy Exit, which is a 0 capital gains tax exit tool for sellers, if anyone is interested. But that's not the topic for today. Were those 14 typically less than 1 million in revenue or higher? I think that's referring back to the 14 that we found.
Yeah, so with those, because they were from another agency, they weren't actually from us. They were kind of all over. I'd probably say out of the 14, maybe 5 or 6 were above 1 mil. The rest were lower. There was 1 or 2 startups in there as well. But yeah, they were just opportunities that were just sat there from an agency already that had already been working with that client.
And then Chris has asked a really good question. How do we navigate client conflict sector to sector?
Yeah, nice question. Yeah. So there's 2 answers to this, I suppose. The first one is Acquisition Engine is going to be boutique. What we aren't looking for is hundreds and hundreds of people to be working with. We're looking for a select amount of people to be working with. So we're going to be restricted there to a degree in terms of exclusivity, but also with the system and how that's kind of made. If we have, again, just for example, if we have 2 clients in the engineering sector, we would do the searches almost together, and then we would separate them out. So this client would have this list, this client would have this list. It kind of just gets split down the middle. So there's no stepping on each other's toes. But if you were working in an industry that was very, very specific, and if there was any scenario where we feel like you might tread on people's toes, then yeah, we'd probably say, we have people that are already targeting in the sector, and we can't take on any more clients. But it's never been a problem for me before.
Yeah, I think in general we wouldn't take on clients who are competing with each other.
No.
And that's also part of the philosophy of having a smaller volume of clients where we provide a high level of service, really, which is why we do feel that today's offer price is pretty compelling. But I appreciate that may not be the right timing for people as well. So what might be useful? Have we got the link for Brian's Calendly?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah, let me get that.
One option for people, if you're not quite ready or you've got more questions, we'll give you a link to have a chat with Brian, one of my team. We can walk you through any questions. Appreciate sometimes when people come on a webinar, it can feel like a heavy sell, and that's not what we're trying to do at all. But Danny's put underneath the link for the actual signing up page. There's a link there to Brian's calendar. So take a copy of that. And do book in a call with Brian, and then he will, again, it's not a hard sell at all. It's very much about making sure this is right for you. And if it's something that's going to help you in your acquisition journey. We had lots of people saying that you're actively looking to acquire, which is great. So we want to help you as best we can on that particular journey. So do check in with Brian's calendar. Just going back to the question, there was a question from Stephen. We mentioned buyers and financiers. What are the problems with exit planners, and what do buyers want to see from them? I'm not sure I entirely understand the question.
I don't get. I want to give Stevie. I want to reword it.
Yeah, I'll try and answer the question. But no, I'm not entirely sure what the gist of that one might be. So while maybe Steve's updating the question, anyone want to put in the chat for me? Just put the word keen, so that if today, right now, isn't the time for you to make a booking, I understand that. But if you'd like to know more, and just want a no pressure conversation, just type in the chat box keen, and then we get a sense of who would like to know a bit more about what we're doing. Today's been a bit of a counter through for obvious reasons. So someone called admin has put keen, Carl's put keen, great. Exit planners equals brokers. Okay, yeah, cool. Another one wants keen. Yeah, so again, we emphasize it's not a hard sell. This is a fantastic tool and will make your life so much easier in your quest to find actual positive buyers. Chris is keen. Yeah, Martin's keen as well. Absolutely great to follow up on that, Martin.
Admin equals Daryl.
Admiral's Daryl, of course he is. Sorry, Daryl. How could I forget that?
Admin, I'm there.
I know. How could I forget that? You're always admin to me. So yeah, there's a good bunch of you who are keen. So please use the link now if you can, and book a time slot to chat through with Brian. If there's a time in there that doesn't work for you, just we've got a note obviously from the chat box, and we'll get back in touch with you one way or another, or just reach out to us and let us know your interest. If you click on the link to the acquisition engine page, you'll see there's an email address. In fact, I'll put it in the chat box so everyone can use it.
And please feel free to keep putting questions in the chat as well. We've got a little bit of time.
Pippa is my executive assistant, and she runs my diary. So if anyone wants to speak to me or Danny, Pippa can sort out a diary date. If you want to talk to us, maybe something specific about what we do and the services that we provide beyond the system. If a time in Brian's diary doesn't quite work, whatever it might be, we're open to conversations and see if we can help you to get on the right track, really. So if you're not sure, drop an email to Pippa, yeah, we'd love to talk some more. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm conscious that we're 10:52. Anyone got any other questions?
I think we've done all right for time there, Guy, actually. Nice little Q&A section at the end. I suppose whilst we're waiting for some questions to drop in, again, just kind of just stress, this isn't meant to be a hard sell. Like, we only want to work with people that want to work with us, and vice versa. We've created this in a way where I keep using the word boutique, because that is what we want this to be. We want something that works for us as well as for you. If we don't feel like we can work with you, then we'll let you know in advance. What should I say? I've been doing this for a long time in terms of the prospecting. I know what works, and I know what kind of criteria will work for campaigns as well. I'm very confident in that. I'm very confident in the kind of results that we can get here as well. So even if you're kind of maybe on the fence, definitely book in a call with Brian. Feel free to reach out to me as well if you've got any questions. I'm happy to kind of just say, if we can or can't work with you. Like I say, I would rather us have fewer clients for the next however many years than a lot of clients that leave every month. This is definitely a long-term relationship that we're looking to start with somebody. Hence why we've limited it as well to five people. If we had 20, 30 people that came with us and said they wanted to start, we would implode or explode, whichever one's worse. So we limited it on purpose because we want that value to be high for you, and we want to work with people for the long term.
I'm going to jump on a couple of the questions while we've got just a couple more minutes. So I think I understand the question from Stephen about exit planners. I think that the reference was actually to brokers. So the friction points of brokers are unrealistic valuations, because that encourages the seller to pay them a take-home fee. That can vary from £5,000 to £50,000, depending on the company. But then the appetite to sell the business afterwards can wane considerably. And most brokerage firms I look at, their business model is based on the take-on fee, and then any sales that they get as a contingent fee is an extra bonus, really. And that's not in the best interests of the seller. Other friction points are lack of understanding around balance sheets, what's actually in the business. Is the business even saleable? I've seen people take fees off people whose business is never going to be sold in a million years. And I find that reprehensible, really. So those are some of the friction points, really, that we come across. And all of this acquisition engine does away with that. It's a massive, massive benefit to getting around that, really. And then there was a question about vendor finance. So very, very quickly, vendor finance is really the principle of saying, if you buy a business, it's a bit like the equivalent of buying a property. Most people would buy a property with a mortgage. When you buy a business with commercial debt, it's effectively a mortgage. And that's got to be paid down, whether it's amortized or whether it's interest only, or whatever that deal structure might be from a commercial finance point of view. But when a lender gets involved in a buyer buying a business, it's the same thing that when a mortgage company, a bank, lends you the money to buy a property, they take control of the deeds. So if something goes wrong, they take the property. And it's essentially the same thing in the debt market. If you buy a business with debt, something goes wrong, chances are the lender will take control and more often not just put it into some kind of insolvency process, and everyone's a loser. When you buy a business through vendor finance, the control sits with the seller, but it also creates the exit for them. So it's much less risky for a seller and much better for a buyer, because you're working together in collaboration to get the end result. And you're not hidebound by a bank. And myself and our corporate lawyer developed a unique security package for sellers, which makes it a really compelling package, which is why we've been successful in doing so many vendor finance deals. And I'm sure we will continue to do more of those. And the legacy exit piece deals with the whole tax position as well. So always looking to innovate around those things. But more than happy to tackle that. If anyone wants to book a call, I can chat that over in a bit more detail, really. So thanks, Paul. Yeah, stay in touch. It's 10:57. I'm going to draw stumps, Danny, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
conscious
absolutely
that,
fine. Just before everyone goes, I'm just going to put these links in the chat just one more time. So this one with Brian's calendar link. So if anyone wants to talk to Brian, please do book in. And if anybody is kind of ready to rock and roll, they can go on the second link and they can kind of get it all going as of now. And we can get you onboarded ASAP.
awesome, brilliant. Chris wants to know more about the vendor security model, so very happy to do that, Chris, as well. Okay, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate you turning up on a Tuesday morning, and enjoyed seeing you all on the call. Hope you found it of real value, and we look forward to continuing the conversation, really.
Yeah, it was amazing to see so many of you. Thanks for the turnout.
Thanks very much, guys. Have
Thanks,
a good
guys.
day. Cheers.
Cheers,
Take care.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.